Thanks for joining me for session 3 of Social Media Strategy. I'm back at Normanby Hall, and today we're going to look at brand and content. So with brand, it's really important to understand that it's not just your logo. Your brand is actually everything you say and everything you do in your business. And it's really important to be consistent across all the different channels that you use, consistent in the way that you present yourself, consistent in the way that you present your logo or colour schemes or photographs or what the videos are that you present. You know, are they lives or are they all going to be pre-records and edited? And also be consistent with the type of language that you use. So are you going to use jargon? Are you going to be quite informal? Is it quite casual language? But really sort of think about how your audience will respond to the way that you present yourself through your brand. It's also important to think about how you use photos and video, and particularly if you're going to be using it on the internet or grab images from the internet, it's important to know that actually a lot of photos they belong to someone. So it's not your copyright, you can't use them. You can access free photos and video content for use on social channels or your website through sites like Pexels or Unsplash or Pixabay. There's lots of options out there, but make sure that you're using the ones that keep you on the right side of the law. Once you've sort of thought about actually what you want to project through your brand, then it could be worthwhile creating a brand book or potentially a brand list. I always think that a brand list is a little bit more effective than a brand book, which might just get shoved in a drawer. So a brand list you can just kind of pop up on a notice board or sort of near your computer, and then whilst you're creating content for your social media channels, you can think, actually, does this fit? So does this fit with my mission? So does this fit with why my business exists? Am I using the right words? Am I using formal language, or is it much more colloquial? I'd also include on there a little bit of information about who the target audience is, just to keep that top of mind, really, so who you're trying to appeal to. And then think about sort of the tones that you want to project, but then also get into actually, what is your logo usage? What's the size? What's the colours? Are you having any white space around it? What typefaces are you going to use? Any strap lines that might be appropriate, and sort of any rules about imagery. Are you always going to shoot on a white background? Are you always going to have people? Are you going to have no people and just scenery? Whatever's appropriate for your business and whatever's appropriate for your audience. It's important to think about your messaging when it comes to your social media marketing, and your message is much more than just your product or service. There's a marketing guru, Seth Godin, and he sums this up really nicely when he says that actually people don't buy products or service, they buy stories and magic. So think about actually what's your story or magic in your business, and think about actually what is the benefit of that to the customer. And actually Disney do this really well, and they put the customer at the heart of their messaging, because they say there's no magic without you. So is there a way of bringing the customer into your message so that they feel that benefit right from the off? Content also tends to create a little bit of a screwed up face on people when I talk about content for social media. You know, I often get, oh, well, what am I going to write about? Actually, planning's really key to the success on this. And there's 3 things to sort of categorise your content into. Stories within your business. So what's going on in your business that people might be interested in? And it might be really simple stuff. You might have a new supplier of shampoos and soaps, and it might be a local business, or they might be particularly eco-friendly shampoos and soaps that you're providing within your cottage. So that's a nice story within your business. It might feel like a little bit of a nothing story to you, but to your target audience, it could be really important. Then think about the stories within your industry. So what's going on within tourism as a whole? So you can't ignore the fact that people are COVID aware, or green aware or sustainability aware. So is there something that is out there that's happening in tourism that you can hook into and talk about on your social media channels? And then think of events within the annual PR calendar, and they might be as simple as, key times being Christmas, New Year, Valentine's Day. But then there's also a whole host of other national awareness days that you might be able to hook into. In terms of identifying potential content strands, there is Google Trends that you could use, which tells you what people are talking about on the internet, and answerthepublic.com, which does a similar thing but frames actually the questions that people are asking. And both of those are free to use, and it'll give you lots of ideas about what you might be able to write about on your social media channels. When you actually pull your content together, so you've now got your ideas of actually what your content is going to be, think about the purpose of the content. So what do you want people to do as a result of that? And then start and think about whether it's going to be original content that fills that, or whether you're going to curate existing content. So if you're talking about trends in tourism or ecotourism, then it might be that you find that elsewhere and then curate that content on your own social media channel. So think about actually how you're going to project that message and what is the desired outcome from that content. I find it useful to create a list of trusted sources from which you can sort of share content knowing it's going to be good quality, and it might be that you want to think about doing something like that yourselves. It is important also to share the type of content across the sort of calendar of when you will be posting things on your social media channels. There's a tendency at the moment for people to post videos or GIFs. It might be that you choose to use lives rather than pre-shoot, or it could be that you use a lot of photographs and stills, but sort of be consistent with the presentation of them, but vary the actual type of content maybe throughout the week or throughout the month. And sometimes it's also useful to decide upon the percentage of content that will be informative or promotional or curated. So when it comes to planning, it's easier if you start with those customers. So what are your customer groups and which social platforms are they on? And then think about actually what's the overarching message? And then the key message that drills out of that for those different types of customers. And what sort of frequency will you be posting those messages on, and what sort of format that'll take? And then once you've got those overarching messages and specific messages for each customer type, think about breaking that into, say, a monthly calendar. And it's not that we're necessarily looking for a post every single day, but it's just to have something down as a prompter to ensure that there is some consistency of posting through your social media channels. Social media falls under the Advertising Standards Authority Committee of Advertising Practice Code, bit of a mouthful, but it is important that you as a business comply with the regulations. The overarching message through those regulations is that you should be legal, decent, honest and truthful. However, you also need to comply with the regulations of the platform, particularly for promotions and competition. Different platforms have different regulations about what you can and can't do. So always check out, say, if you're on Facebook, what their current promotional guidelines are. And if you're using Twitter, what their current promotional guidelines are. And just because you've done something once and it complied with the guidelines doesn't mean that they've not changed those guidelines. So check them every time before you start doing a promotion or competition. If you're getting involved with using influencers or micro-influencers, then be aware that everything that they put out needs to be #spawn or #ad. This is so it's really clear to their followers that they are receiving something in return for making that post. And then, of course, it's pretty obvious to say, but don't disclose personal or confidential information about you or your clients or any third parties. And be particularly conscious of that if you're taking photos, what might be just in the background might show up a little bit clearer on a photo or on a video, and you don't want to inadvertently give anything away. We've touched on copyright already, but just remember, words and images are subject to copyright. You can't just lift stuff from the internet. And if you've got employees within your business, then it might be worth looking at having a social media policy. So are they permitted to put on their personal Facebook page where they work? Or do you want them to be anonymised? What are they allowed to say? What are they not allowed to say? And sometimes it's worth thinking about that because of the potential negative impact of something that they might say or the potential positive impact of something they might say. Ultimately, social media is just another strand of marketing. So it's all about knowing where you are at the moment, knowing what your objectives are, who your target audience is, what your messages are, how you're going to measure it, and then actually sort of implementation and evaluation, and then it just goes round. So the more you do, the more you'll learn and the more you'll improve. Thanks for watching all 3 of the social media sessions. I hope that you found them useful.